Diesel for We the People News. Back again. Same area of subjects. Okay. Once again, I'm not an attorney nor care to be an attorney. Always talk to a lawyer if you're not age of majority. Okay. If you're a person, you may have to talk to an attorney to get legal advice, and may not be age of majority because you can't handle it on your own. Let's see. Always, never look straight forward. Look around you, for the outside forces may want to commit harm upon you. And to protect yourself by any means necessary, you must always look around you. I'm not a doctor, just in case anything comes up. This is just a learning video. So learn as we shall to be able to protect ourselves by any means necessary. That is our number one deal in liberty and as a free man. Here we go.
Named Joshua Martinez, a constitutional activist from Las Vegas who's been entangled in the legal system for an alleged crime similar to Brandt's. His story starts with this: an offensive Facebook post that shows police carrying a coffin with the caption, "How Cops Take Out the Trash." Now, it's important to note here for our viewers, PAR and the editorial staff of The Real News does not condone violence or threats of violence. But we also think there is value in reporting on how our legal system treats these possible threats and if the consequences fit the alleged crime. That's because there is a backstory to this post, and it's illustrative of the problem with how the judiciary responds to both criticism and pushback from the people. It's also another stark example of how the border between free speech and public safety is often a precarious balance that should not be immune from scrutiny, even if we find the speech offensive. Just a bit more background here. Martinez has publicly described himself as a constitutionalist. He has posted quite a bit about both First and Second Amendment rights. And it's that history that Martinez supporters say is why he has been the subject of some extreme overreach by Nevada's criminal justice system. Consider how the judicial system responded to Martinez's Facebook post. The alleged threat he posted on Facebook led to multiple charges of online harassment, digital threats, 3 other counts including digital stalking, and Martinez was given a $1 million bond and a gag order. We wanted to speak with Joshua on the record to date, but we couldn't. He is unable to post on any social media platform or speak with any form of the press under the threat of incarceration. Making matters dicey is how this encounter in the courtroom between Judge Ann Elworth and Martinez unfolded during the proceedings regarding his offensive post, an exchange that only made his legal issues more thorny because he refused to apologize to a judge for asking a question. Let's watch. Okay, Mr. Martinez.
Let's stop there right quick. All right. Number one, y'all. There's not supposed to be secrets in court. That's the reason why it's supposed to be called an open court. In order to have a gag order on yourself on your own court deal is unlawful. In a lot of ways, it's illegal also. Once again, we're going to go back into it's okay because they have sovereign immunity to break their own laws. That's my opinion. Don't mean it's true. Look it up for yourself. This irks me. Knowing the Constitution, knowing the laws and all that kind of stuff, and common law and all that. How can you put a gag order on your own, a court deal that's supposed to be public?
Since you have informed me that I am in contempt of court and that you are in fact in charge of this courtroom, I'm going to go ahead and sentence you today to direct contempt of court.
I will give you an opportunity to apologize if you choose to do so and behave in a manner that I consider appropriate for a courtroom. Would you like to do that today, Mr. Martinez?
I would like to proceed only if I can have my questions answered. That's all I
That
want.
wasn't my question, sir.
Okay, so on James Freeman on another video doing the same thing. This is what I was talking about, alright? So she didn't get to the very beginning of this, but the deal was, I bet, and if I can remember correctly when I seen this some other time somewhere, she challenged the jurisdiction of the courts, where the courts must give an answer. The Supreme Court's ruled on this, alright? And they have a tendency not to give it. They're breaking their own laws. Alright? He's still waiting for the judge to answer for his question. And they said, since you think you're in the courts, right? Well, he may have said it. He may have said, well, you're contempt of court because she is not following the law. So she, in fact, is in contempt of court. But she has this gavel, and she has this magic sovereign immunity that's a doctrine, not even a law. And other judges are investigating themselves, and this guy is getting punished for her crime. Right? Not for his crime. He's still trying to get an answer. This is what the ridiculous part is, and this is what attorneys and all them avoid. They do not want to cause any conflict in court with the judges, right? So even if they know it, they can't do nothing about it because of the severely large sovereign immunity. Okay? This is number one issue we have. They must answer. They probably don't have to answer all questions, but how do you have a fair and just system against you if you don't fully understand what's going on? They must answer this. Okay? And especially with the Supreme Court ruling saying that you must answer. Okay? This is case law. That judge literally supposed to answer this question of how she got jurisdiction on. I'm not saying she don't or do. I'm just saying she's not answering. And she's breaking the own law by not answering.
Do you wish to have the opportunity to apologize and proceed in a manner that I consider appropriate for the courtroom?
What would I be
It is a
apologizing?
yes or an...
Okay. That I see that's appropriate for the courts, right? Oh, so we're supposed to be able to read her mind and know what she thinks is appropriate. Right? So we're supposed to be a mind reader and not get any answers from her what is appropriate. So this guy is stuck in the quandary of not understanding what her mind is. He's supposed to be a mind reader.
No question.
What would I be apologizing?
For your direct contempt of court, sir.
All I was asking.
Again, direct contempt of court. She is putting all the blame on him for her breaking her own laws. All I'm asking for the courts to give him an answer. But he's the one in violation when she's not giving an answer.
Those legal questions, ma'am.
I disagree, sir. To tell me that you are in charge of this courtroom and tell me that I am in contempt is not asking legal questions. It is contempt of court. I'm going to ask you the question one more time. Did you wish to apologize and proceed in a manner I consider appropriate in this courtroom or not? Okay. Direct contempt, I'm gonna sentence him to 15 days in jail, and we'll set it for video of 15 days from today.
So, as you can see, even though Joshua was only asking a question, he was subject to an arbitrary, and one could argue, questionable ruling by a judge. A ruling that had serious consequences because Martinez ended up in jail, and without the help of the auditor and activist communities to post his jail, he might still be sitting incarcerated for months on end. But that is not the only time Joshua was in absurd court proceedings. His freedom was on the line as a probation officer argued that there were weapons present in his sister's home. What were these dangerous devices? Well, I'll let the court explain.
Did you notice any other weapons in the common areas?
Yeah, while I was standing in the living room with all the occupants, I noticed a fire poker and a baseball bat, a fire poker and a baseball bat, a fire poker and a baseball bat behind the front door. And I informed Mr. Martinez that those were considered weapons due to how they were being.
We're going to stop right here. So people argue with me about weapons, right? Armed or whatever, right? And anything that can cause another person harm can be used as a weapon. But until that occurs, then it's not a weapon. Right? But to use this fire poker that's used to kind of stir up logs as a weapon. And it can be a weapon if it was used in that manner. Until then, all it is a fire poker. Okay? Baseball bats. It's made to play baseball. But if you use actions to harm another, then it becomes a weapon. But until then, it's a baseball bat. It's a toy. The gun thing. Alright? People use guns to go hunting. For sport. For food. It's not a weapon. It's only a weapon if it's called to action of harming another. Alright? This is where we get so tricky about on certain words that we use. Remember, I talked about this before. The system twists words to fit their agenda, right? And everybody's been so misled into things, right? I'm allowed to bear arms, okay? That could be a gun, it could be a knife, and all this kind of stuff for self-protection. But until then, it's a tool. Most knives are used for tools. Butter knife. We usually use it for cutting butter. But until I threaten somebody and go after somebody with that butter knife, it's not a weapon. As soon as I go after somebody, it becomes a weapon. So everybody's stuck on these trickery of words, and they believe it, knowing, this is the catch, knowing that the government lies.
And these decisions had serious consequences for Martinez. In fact, he spent almost 5 months in solitary confinement, 23 hours a day in a cell, without even being formally convicted of a crime. But there is even more to this case.
Listen to that point. Alright? Fire poker, baseball bat, in a friend or family's house. In confinement for 5 months. For a non-weapon.
And a high bail and a seemingly fraught decision by a judge. And for more of that, I'm joined by my reporting partner, Stephen Janis, who's been looking into the case. Stephen, thank you so much for joining me.
Tay, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Stephen, there is more to the case than meets the eye, especially the police detective who was the subject of the alleged threat and who's also apparently instrumental in an investigation into Martinez. Can you tell us a little bit more about him?
Well, first of all, I want to just say this. When I look at this case, it's really one of those mainstream media liturgies where we create a sort of guilt cloud over someone by association. I mean, technically, he's never been accused of a violent crime, but yet there's been breathless article after article throughout. Like, even the Daily Beast picked up on his story and wrote about him because of his associations, not because of his actions. And I think it shows exactly how social media occludes meaning to people's associations and some of the things they express, but not exactly their actions. So where symbolism like overrides any sort of reality. I think that's part of what mainstream media uses to generate clicks and why they lack the context and the complexity of a person. Remember what we talked about before in the show. Rich, elite people are complex, and people who aren't are simplistic. And that's exactly what's happened in this story.
Now, you reached out to Detective Kenneth Mead for comment. What did he say?
Well, what's really interesting about Detective Mead is his salary. Last year, he made $200,000 according to Transparent Nevada. And over the past 5 years, he's earned, or cost the city taxpayers, roughly $1 million. And I think that's part of the important point here to think about this case. Guys making, $150,000 plus benefits, $200,000, over $1 million spent on him. What has he done? As James brought up in his video, and he'll talk about later, he was supposed to be investigating the Las Vegas shooter. Nothing has come out of that. So what does he have to do? Create cases, maybe. I mean, when you get paid that much money, you got to shake some trees, right? So I think the best question is, why is he making so much money?
So finally, what sort of accountability is there for judges and prosecutors? What sort of obstacles are there to holding them accountable?
Well, a perfect example is how the Justice Department is trying to make grand jury proceedings secret for 50 years. I mean, you get indicted by grand juries, and grand juries are secret for reasons because, if someone doesn't get indicted, you don't want all this information leaking out. But since most grand juries indict everybody the prosecutors bring to them, it's kind of scary to think for 50 years you're not going to be able to know what goes on. So there is so much that goes on.
That brings up an interesting conversation. Why is it only past 50 years and not the past 250 years? Grand juries literally existed without this restriction of secrecy for 200 years. Then all of a sudden they decide to come up and hide the grand jury and use these trickery of words, y'all. Trickery.
Behind closed doors. So much that we never hear about, and I think it's a little scary.
And now for more insight to this case, I'm joined by a cop.
P.S. Alright. P.S. y'all. And I don't know about all the other courts, but the Fifth Circuit Court, which is Louisiana, Texas, and one other state, Mississippi, I think. Okay? The prosecutor can lie to the grand jury because of qualified immunity. So then think about that for a minute, y'all. The Supreme Court of the Fifth Circuit says that the prosecutor can lie to the grand jury because of the qualified immunity.
An auditor who has been following it closely. His name is James Freeman, and he is a tireless cop watcher with a very popular YouTube channel. James, thank you so much for joining me.
Alright, so I did a video on that, right? So this one is going to be about the end. But I just wanted to bring out a couple of really interesting facts that you guys really need to dig into, right? Some of you guys know that my son was with the grand jury. But we had to file threatened claims and all that on him. And he got released from it. Number one, he was already supposed to been settled the matter of something that he didn't do. So how in the world did the grand jury decide to press forward on a crime he didn't commit? Because the prosecutor is legally allowed to lie. So don't tell me innocent people don't go to prison. This is Diesel for We the People News. Till next time, y'all. Bye.